Nationwide, 104,000 Americans are waiting for an organ transplant. 412 are Maine residents, and the vast majority are waiting on a kidney, according to New England Donor Services. Sierra Whaley has the story of a Belfast mother who tomorrow is giving an incredible gift in hopes of inspiring others to do the same.
You see so many people in there, and they're all just waiting, and it's really sad.
Belfast native Michelle Ridley has dedicated her life to her family of 6. A lot of love flows in her home.
I was surprised and excited at the same time.
Her 34-year-old son Bryce had a surgical procedure done in 2019 and found out he had stage 3 kidney failure. 88,000 Americans are awaiting a kidney transplant, and ever since his name has been on that list, it's provided an insight into the importance of organ donations.
People that don't know, the live donor, the process to go through to donate for somebody else, it's definitely for them to be able to possibly save someone else's life or extend someone's life. I really wish more people would look into it more.
In 2024, that's what his mom did. She signed up to provide a living organ donation, and for Bryce, she was the perfect match.
I cried. Yeah, it's emotional. So, and I have O positive blood, which is actually means that I can give to anybody, but yet he can only receive from O positive or whatever your blood is, A negative.
Yeah,
so he is harder to find a match.
The Ridley family is packing up to go to Maine Medical Center in Portland. Michelle's surgery will be first, and then they'll transplant her kidney to Bryce, which she named Hope, something she's providing to Bryce in hopes that it'll inspire others to consider organ donations to save a life. Sierra Whaley, WABI News, Belfast.
And to learn more about being an organ donor, you can check out the links on our website and mobile app.